I'm ready.
Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Any public comment? No? Seeing none, we'll go into closed session.
She's forcing me to buy tickets on. Is that what she's doing? That's all right. Good morning. It's only good for some of us then. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Welcome to Calaveras County Board of Supervisors, August 23rd, 2016 regular meeting. First of all, I'd like to report out on our closed session meeting this morning. We actually started at 8 o'clock. But we went into closed session, and I was a little bit late, so Chris started us off. Thank you, Chris. You're welcome. On a motion by Supervisor Kearney, second by Supervisor Edson, the board unanimously appointed John Lawless as interim Health and Human Services effective August 20th, 2016 until the permanent position is filled. Staff has been directed to bring a resolution forward memorializing this action at our next board meeting. So, Mr. Lawless has kindly helped us out in that, in the absence of a Health and Human Services Director for a few months now, and we certainly appreciate him stepping in and doing that for the county. Could you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Just in case we, on the last issue that I spoke of, in case you need the description of the closed session agenda item, was public employee appointment or employee pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Health and Human Services Agency Director, interim, and so that's what we acted on this morning. And now we have a very happy day for one person. It's a recognition and acknowledgments. Public Works. Public Works recommends the board adopt the attached proclamation recognizing and honoring Jim Turley, Administrative Service Officer 2, for 13 years of distinguished public service in the Public Works Department. Mr. Grovitz?
Jeff Grovitz, Public Works Director. Thank you very much, Supervisor Edson. Yeah, it's a kind of a bittersweet day, out with the old, in with the new. Not casting aspersions to Mr. Turley. He's moving on to, I'm hoping, much better things. Jim has been a very, very steady hand for the Public Works Department. Been with the county since 2003. He's moved up through positions of increasing responsibility. Currently, he is our timekeeper. He fixes the copier. He takes care of personnel items. He helps business admin with nearly everything they do. As I said, he was under the sink this morning fixing the plug plumbing. So I guess that job description, other duties as required fits Jim to a T, but he does it with a smile, a great sense of humor, but he also takes his job and position seriously, but not himself. So we have to thank you, Jim, very much. He will be sorely missed. And so I also wanted to take an opportunity to introduce to the board a new employee. John, stand up in the back. John O'Leary. He's our new integrated waste manager. John comes to us from Caltrans, the Trans Lab, where he did testing, prepared reports, prepared contracts with subconsultants for geotechnical investigations and repairs. He worked on some fairly complex projects. Before he was at the state, he worked for a private consulting firm where he did landfill design, landfill construction inspection, ironically enough, on Rock Creek. So he comes to us. I think he will hit the ground running, and it will be a huge hole that is filled. So I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce John to the board so you'll recognize him as he comes in front of you and you go in front of him. So thank you very much. And Jim?
Just a little comment on that huge hole that is filled, so if you could please make sure it doesn't get filled too quickly.
Thank you, sir.
Come on up here, John.
Never been on this side before.
Congratulations. So, before I read the proclamation, we kind of want to give people a little discussion on
Why I'm moving? I am retiring the day after my 70th birthday. Does that answer the question?
I thought you were like 50, so I didn't know.
No, I'm going to be 70 on August 30th. My last day is August 31st. 8 days, 5 hours, 40 seconds. Did not count.
So we first met, you were at Oak Shadows.
Yes.
And is there something new happening in your life?
A year ago, May 30th, I got remarried and we're living in Placerville. So I've been commuting and getting a little tired of seeing deer run in front of me and having to hit brakes. So it's time to retire and have some elderly in-laws that needs taken care of as well. So that's going to be my new job, I think.
Well, we certainly appreciate the 13 years that you put in Calaveras County, and if you don't mind, I'd like to read the proclamation. Board of Supervisors, Calaveras County, City, California, proclamation recognizing and honoring Jim Turley, Administrative Service Officer 2, for the 13 years of distinguished public service in the Public Works Department. Whereas Jim Turley has served the public for 13 years in positions of increasing knowledge and diversity since March 2003. Whereas Jim brought talent, experience, and hard work to fulfill the responsibilities of his various duties and assignments. And whereas the county staff has benefited from Jim's commitment and generosity, especially during his term as president of SEIU Local 1021. And whereas Jim could always be counted on to lighten the mood of any gathering with his candid and sometimes startling humor. And whereas Jim is well regarded in the community, having earned the trust and confidence of his fellow staff members and Calaveras County citizens. And whereas Jim will be missed by the entire Public Works Department, as he was always available and eager to assist staff with whatever they needed. Now therefore be proclaimed that the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors honors and thanks Jim Turley for his 13 years of service, contributions to the public and his fellow Public Works staff members, and be it further proclaimed that the board wishes Jim Turley a long and happy retirement. And can I have a motion on this, please?
So moved.
And a second.
A second.
So I have a motion by Supervisor Calaveras, second by Supervisor Ponte.
Public comment.
Do we have any public comment?
Deborah Mullen, Public Works. I've been there the whole time that Jim's been there, so I'd just like to thank Jim and point out that in addition to his odd combination of cornball and cynical humor, which I made a personal principle not to laugh at, but I always enjoyed it anyway, but don't tell Jim that. He's a very generous person, and we've appreciated working with him. Thank you, Jim.
Robert Packinger, Public Works. We didn't worry about his humor, because most of the time I didn't understand it anyway, but I would like to thank him for all the help that I received from Jim. He was always very patient with me, very patient. And, well, thank you very much. We worked together for many years, and hopefully we'll keep seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? All right. Well, I'd just like to thank you also personally because we had quite a few conversations and they were always very honest and candid, and I really appreciate that in anybody. So thank you very much for your service to the county and for your nomination. Thank you.
You need a vote.
You need a vote. Oh, so you just can't leave until we get that. So we have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And not one opposed. How about that? That's real good.
Hey, that's better than last time.
Thanks to the Public Works staff for bringing that forward. Appreciate it. And Evan for supporting it. Okay, on to the next item, which is public comment. It'll be 30 minutes of public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within subject matter's jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on consent or regular agendas may be addressed during public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the regular agenda. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued at the conclusion of the consent agenda in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of the comments to be heard. So we have 3-minute public comments this morning.
Yeah, back in the 2000s, it used to be 5 minutes. Cliff? I don't know what you're doing. But I love
We're
you.
just trying to save.
Yeah, save taxpayers' money. Lights. I got gifts for you. Okay? Each one of these was acquired in Calaveras County, and they've never been worn because they're too tacky for me. But for you folks, nothing's too good. Calaveras Cement. These are all promos. This one, a guy saw center came over and they sold me a bunch of saws. Valley Vineyard and Orchard Supply, they came up one day. All they gave me was a hat, so I don't do business with them because my regular supplier, he gives me these big cases of coffee mugs. And a gift is a gift, you know. You have to go with who gives you the best. This one, somebody gave it to me. It doesn't have anything on it, but it's the highest quality one, so that's going to go to Debbie because she's a very high-quality person. Black Sheep Winery, I believe this is in your district, so you'll get this. So I'm going to pass these over to Diane, and she will give each of you, or pass the house.
She's going to pass the hat.
And I have to thank you today that my neighboring property is being abated. We started yesterday. It's probably going to take about 3 days for them to abate. They brought in SWAT, and it's a pretty nice operation. I know all the guys too. That was the fun part. We all got to have a conversation during the operation of what's going on. Of course, nothing that violates any laws or as Courtney said, you're not in charge of this operation. I am. But I do have to thank you for that. And today I'm actually down here because I'm going to be over at Public Works, and we have some signs going in down on Bald Mountain Road, it looks like, later this week. And that's just fantastic. These are signs for public safety. There have been quite a few accidents over the years. These were supposed to go in 2008, I believe. I helped write the whole thing up with Jonathan late one night down in the Public Works office. We had a good time. working on it. It got delayed, and I won't tell you guys why. It's not, it doesn't put a good light on some people.
30 seconds.
It always I always imagine public comment to be like sex during marriage. You get 3 minutes and you're reminded to get it over with. But thank you very much for this time. I'm going to give you this old agenda. I notice on the new agendas, lunch is predominant on it. We didn't have lunch on the old agendas. So there you guys go.
That's probably because most of their meetings ended before lunch. But we're taking them through.
Somebody at the county is having a birthday today, and always give staff something.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Good morning. Gee, things have changed here in the last couple of years since I haven't been here. They don't have people checking your car keys, and you don't have a sign-up letter to speak, and I'm kind of falling behind the times. But my name is John Rain. I'm a CSA member for the Rancho Road Committee, and I've lived here since 1980. The reason I came down this morning was to invite you folks to think outside the box, grab the bull by the horns, as it were, and take advantage of an existing opportunity in the county to bring in a dump truck load of extra cash to the county coffers. You're going to be starting your public right-of-way tree removal project shortly, and you've got Phillips Jordan and the logging company and Tetra Tech and all of the infrastructure that's going to be in the county during this project. After those trees are removed, you're still going to have thousands of trees standing out there on those 600 properties. They're going to be a problem to somebody, mainly the property owners. And after wading your way through a really complicated federal contract with taxpayer money, I would like to propose the idea of a second harvest tree project that could be written up by Phillips Jordan and Tetra Tech and the county and the logging company and a local logging mill to work out a timber harvest project that would remove the rest of those trees from the properties, bring tens and tens of thousands of extra dollars into the budget, get rid of all of these trees standing out there that can be falling on the new homes that people are going to be building. You have, when this project is completed, Tetra Tech, who can go out and count and mark all the trees for felling, the logging company that can cut them up, put them on the trucks, and haul them to the lumber mill, and with tens and tens of thousands of board feet of timber.
30 seconds.
I can't talk that fast. Gee whiz. Anyway, with all of that timber out there and the attendant infrastructure in place, I think it would be a good idea to benefit the county, fill their coffers, protect the residents of the county, and even more importantly, get rid of all those standing trees out there so the property owners don't have to pay out $500 to $1,000 a tree to have some little tree service company come out and remove them one tree at a time. And with the road clearance project done, it will be even easier to cut and haul those trees out than the original ones that were removed. So I hope you would get together with Phillips Jordan and get a nice, easy, simple, no taxpayer-funded contract written up to benefit the county and the people. And it'll also help you start on your fire prevention and resource management part of the county plan that you guys had voted to bring into the county plan last May.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Mr. Race, and I'm from the 5th District of Jenny Lynn. talking to some folks over at Animal Control, had to register my dog and so on, etc., it came to my attention that something that we can help alleviate certain problems that people were complaining about, especially in newly found farming areas. Animals coming out on the public roads, scaring people when they're walking on public streets, and so on. They only have one unit taking care of things like that right now. And it's unfortunate because somebody else is sick and so on. But it would save a big load of money and responsibility to the deputies. Because if somebody is walking down on public street and feel threatened, they're going to call the cops. And I know we have so many deputies walking the street, they don't know what to do with themselves. Just to alleviate that problem, I propose take a look into a possibility of increasing at least one more unit, so at least they have 3 units in this county. So when somebody does have a problem, feel in danger, they could have somebody, a professional specializing in that particular problems and danger, to eliminate it and handle it. There's no reason to call a deputy off some evening to take care of a dangerous animal. It's not fair to the animal, it's not fair to the public. This way, a professional can restrain aggressive animal on public roads, do the proper restraining, take control of it, bring it down here and so on. There's no such thing as bad animals. I believe it's bad ownership of those animals. It would save the animal life, maybe. It would more than pay for itself because there would be a hefty fine. That would be up to you folks what the fines would be. And make public walking on a public street a little safer.
30 seconds.
So please consider it, take a look into it. Maybe that possibly can find some funds to increase the response and ability for animal control to take care of it. The other one is I like to make it quick. I was the mean person to question that the deal you folks were making with University of California for the benefit of the kids, because they got a 10% increase of public funds, but what turned out to be, University of California resents any kind of audit. Well, lo and behold, the lady who was in charge of it resigned. She was holding down 3 full-time jobs, one with the University of California and 2 outside of her. Each one of them well over $100,000, folks. In California, you don't get fired, you don't get canned, you don't hold accountable. You just resign. So I brought it to your attention. It was very generous of you. I noticed that nobody in this room over here reached the pocket to donate. It's always at the public for good intentions. Well, the good intentions doesn't get you a cup of coffee. Hopefully you make it a practice of show what was accomplished at Taxpayers Fund.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, Rosemary Wilson, living in Arnold. I wanted to continue the tale that I've been telling over the last several months about the organization of Calaveras Recovers. And I know Cliff wasn't here last time I spoke, but I was speaking then on the fact that Debbie Ponte had graciously agreed to look into the issue for me, and had been told that, well, maybe there were so many different organizations that you could sign up with, that maybe Rosemary signed up with the wrong one and thought it was Calaveras Recovers, because they said at that time that they had no record of my application. So Debbie has been continuing her sleuthing in this, and it's not good news what she's been up against this last couple of weeks. She called me towards the end of the afternoon yesterday, and she wanted to find out how I'd got on speaking to the people at Calaveras Recovers. They told her that they'd had a talk to me about needs, etc., and they had, seems like they may have proposed a plan, and they weren't too sure whether what they had said was satisfactory to me or how I had taken it. So Debbie volunteered to call me and ask me. And they wouldn't go into any details because of the HIPAA health information privacy laws and regulations. Well, it turns out that nobody has spoken to me, nobody has emailed me, nobody has left a message on my phone, nobody, not one single person has touched base with me.
30 seconds.
Thank you. And yet, they are telling Debbie, Supervisor Debbie Ponte, who has a lot of other important things to be doing, I'm sure, as a supervisor, that they have spoken to me. Now, this is an outright lie. Nobody called me. So Debbie is going to be following up with that, but I just wanted to let you know the type of whitewashing and shrugging off that these people are capable of doing. Thank you very much, and thank you, Debbie, again.
Any other public comments? Only one, sir. Sorry. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our regular agenda.
Okay. Item 3 is from the Administrative Office to receive a report from the Board Chair, Department Heads, Cal OES, and FEMA update on Butte fire recovery.
Okay.
The main thing that we're dealing with is the issues surrounding tree debris removal, and Director Krovitz can probably speak to that. I have information that since he deals with it on a daily basis, I will defer to him.
Thank you, Jeff Kravitz, Public Works. We are continuing to have our weekly meetings with Tetra Tech and Phillips and Jordan. Concerning right of entries, to date we have received and processed over 160 right of entries. I signed more than 20 this morning. So of our approximate 300 parcels, we're nearing two-thirds completed. The majority of those sites where we received and certified right of entries as being complete and correct. The on-site surveys have been completed, not the ones that I've signed this week, but the ones that were signed last week. Of those, we've marked, or Tetra Tech has marked nearly 3,000 trees that are right of entry trees for removal, and over 1,900 trees on right of way for removal. Those numbers will continue to go up. We've corresponded with BLM, and we're hoping to have resolution on BLM trees on their lands adjacent to our roads going through the lands. Announcement, Tetra Tech has hired about 17 locals to assist them with inspection and monitoring. There are also additional local hires from P&J. I don't have those numbers confirmed, and working ahead. Phillips and Jordan is providing submittals that are required as part of the contract for traffic control, for debris management sites, for safe operations, stormwater pollution prevention plans, those types of required contract submittals. We also have been I guess you would say, in negotiation with FEMA, who is preparing the NEPA clearance for the project. Since we have federal funds as well as state funds that are paying for the tree removal, the debris removal contract, it must be cleared through NEPA as well as receiving CEQA clearance. Fortunately, CEQA clearance gives us an emergency exemption where a state of emergency has been declared by the governor. So the CEQA process has been completed. The NEPA process, you can foreshorten it in a state of emergency, but there are several items that cannot be foreshortened. Those would include endangered species, cultural resource disturbance, and archaeological resources disturbance. So those three areas are still being worked on by FEMA. We have been provided with notice that much of the burn area is red-legged frog habitat, and therefore we have about 28 avoidance measures that will need to be incorporated into the work for hazard tree removal for avoidance of disturbing habitat that supports red-legged frogs or disturbing red-legged frogs should we find them. That requirement will likely cause us to hire a biological monitor that will be out in the field during cutting and skidding and loading operations. So additionally, for cultural resources, we have a number of cultural resources sites from our historical occupation of the Miwok Indians, and there will likely also be a hired monitor for those sites of high concern. So where work is going on in areas of high concern, there will be a monitor for cultural resources to make sure that disturbance doesn't occur. That requirement will...
Sorry.
Just checking to make sure that you said everything all right.
It's got a mind of its own at the moment.
What am I doing on your pad? And also, in addition to that, there's some archaeological sites that were historic mining or very old buildings. We hired some attorney for those resources. We have
Echo.
There's an echo in my head.
Pause button.
And the cultural resources and archaeological resources must be submitted to the State Historic Preservation Office by FEMA for concurrence. We're anticipating that transfer to occur this week, at the end of this week, and following that, there's approximately 3 weeks to receive that concurrence. So we are negotiating in an attempt to begin removing trees in areas where we don't have endangered species or endangered species habitat, known archaeological resources or known cultural resources, and that will make itself known to us in the next several days. But I think that there's a chance that we can get started prior to all of these clearances if we avoid the areas of concern. Any questions on that?
I do have a question. I read an article that a number of residents were refusing to let anybody enter their property because they were being advised to do that. Have you run into much of that?
We've run into a lot of that. Well, not a lot, some. There are some attorneys in the county that are advising their clients not to sign the right of entry, taking exception to some of the limitations on liability. I've heard because I've had direct contact with them. I provided the attorneys who sent letters recommending their clients not sign the right of entries, sent them excerpts from our contract with Phillips and Jordan indicating where liability truly lies for activities or damages that are a direct result of the tree removal activities, so that hopefully that would give the owners a little bit more warm and fuzzy that they are not hanging out any more than they are today. The problem that we have is that an owner today, before we do tree removal, is still responsible for trees growing on their private property that have a possibility or probability of falling onto public right-of-way. This program, which is a grant program of a limited duration, takes care of the financial out-of-pocket expenses for the removal and treatment of those trees. Owners that refuse to sign a right of entry will not be participating in the program, and they will still maintain or carry their own liability for these trees that threaten public right-of-way. So it's hard to understand from our perspective why any owner would not want to participate. But again, we can't force it.
I have a question on that. When a property owner has a tree like that and they want to remove it themselves, is there a process that they have to go through to do, even though it's burnt and dead?
Not on a single tree, as long as they're not attempting to sell or make a commercial profit on the tree. If they're going to fall the tree and leave it where it lies, as long as it doesn't hit the public right-of-way, that would be fine. If they want to fall a tree and turn it into firewood for their own use, or for lumber, timber, or posts, whatever for their own use, no other requirements. If they're attempting to make a profit, sell it commercially, then they must engage through a process with CAL FIRE for harvesting of timber. That's under state law. In a post-fire situation, there is a expedited process for timber harvest that is available to people who live within the burn area. But regardless of what they choose to do, the liability for these trees that are close to public right-of-way and have a potential for affecting public right-of-way, the liability still remains with the property owner. And this
Does that timber harvest from CAL FIRE, does that cost money to the property owner?
There's a small fee associated with it, but I think if it's an emergency timber harvest plan, you're getting me into an area that I'm not expert in, but I believe that with an emergency timber harvest plan, there's a limited fee, very small limited fee.
So they're charging a very small fee for a tree that is burnt and dead, that could be, dangerous, and yet they're not allowed to recover their costs unless they get that plan.
That's correct. So, and the cost, I believe, are associated with an administrative cost of processing a timber harvest permit. So.
All right. So, is there anything the county could do to blanket the area to make sure, so that we can, maybe make that process a little easier for residents and hopefully, allow people to do what they need to do on their own property?
Supervisor, I just wanted to chime in on this. The grant program that Public Works has reached out to obtain funding for is to do just that, and it is to provide a source for public or for private property owners to have these hazardous trees removed. But in order for the county and any contractors to actually enter private property to remove those trees, we need to have the right of entry forms signed. I know that there was some concern about the right of entry forms and people advising clients not to sign them. Under the government code and the California Code of Regulations, because we are receiving funds from, it is the California Disaster Assistance Act funds. Because those funds are what this grant program is being run by, we have to comply with those codes. One of which is that we obtain an indemnification as part of the right of entry that protects all state and local agencies and contractors. So that is something that is required by the state because these are state funds. We aren't in control over the indemnity language. That is something that we ran through Cal OES. That is something that is required by the state law. So that I just wanted to make sure that everyone was clear on that we are dealing with what is required under the government code and other state laws for that language. This is a program that is a voluntary program that Public Works sought out to help private properties, just as you're asking for, is what can the county do? the county can do this, and the county can seek a program like this to help private property owners in that situation, so then they don't have to go through and get a timber harvesting permit through CAL FIRE. They can utilize this program if they are willing to execute a right of entry.
Yeah, and I would recommend that everybody that does that, but there are those that won't, and I want them, I just want to make sure that people know that it isn't just as simple as going out and cutting down a tree, especially when it is affecting the public right of way. So,
well, it's a problem, but I don't consider it a huge problem. Of the approximate 180 right of entries that we've received to date, there have been 23 refusals and 2 post-signature rescissions of the right of entry. So we're talking 25 out of nearly 200 right now. I am hoping that they change their mind. If they don't change their mind, they don't participate in the program, we will continue to pursue protecting public health, safety, and welfare on our county-maintained roads, and which means that we would do a nuisance abatement through the Board of Supervisors and remove these trees and back charge the owners for it. So if it comes to that, it comes to that. The program will be long gone by the time that happens, but it has to happen.
Yeah, and I think to get to your point of why people are not doing it, it's because of their attorneys.
Yes.
It's the attorneys, I saw some of the letters that the attorneys wrote these landowners, and they're like advising them not to sign it. And so when your attorney says, don't sign this, you listen to your attorney. I mean, that's what I do, in this position. I turn to county council and go, oh, what should we do? Oh, yeah, you're the council. And then, so that's the problem we're having, is with the attorney, not the landowner. So I just encourage people to, contact, and talk to you more and hopefully get that worked out. I don't know if we could make a statement, public press release or something explaining the law behind that, and why we have to follow like what you just said, as far as following the California code to get that funding, and why that specific language is in there.
Certainly, I know Public Works has already issued a press release regarding this issue, but our office can work with Public Works to address an additional press release specific to the government code and the CCR that applies to the situation.
I think it's worth a shot if you have the time to just to, put it out there again. So.
And Supervisor Red, I want to let you know that we've sent out right of entries now in 2 different mailings, 2 separate mailings, and on both mailings there's a cover letter from me that indicated the code that required it and the requirements for the liability statements within the right of entry, and the state and federal code sections that require these statements, and encouraging participation. And the second letter got a little bit stronger in terms of warning those owners that do not participate that they are still holding the financial and legal liability for damage caused to the traveling public by privately owned trees that were killed by the Butte fire. So we're doing everything that we can, and we're essentially we're progressing into the stridency with which we are informing the public that is not signing. But there is going to be refusals. That's all there is to it. We will have refusals in this program, and we will have to abate those dangers. That's all there is to it. I don't think that we're going to be as well off as the program through Environmental Management Agency, where they got all but 2, and the 2, or all but 3, and 2 of the holdouts self-abated, and the 3rd one is an abatement. Very, very low number on 800.
That was the same language?
Very, very similar language, extremely similar language.
What was the difference there?
I think that you're asking me to comment on a social issue. I think that there is a fatigue. There's a victim fatigue here where there has been 5 to 7 to 10 different visits by various agencies post-fire to every single property that was affected by the fire. And I think people are starting to get tired of it. And as you said, when an attorney writes a letter and advises their client what not to sign, some of them will continue to read and make their own decisions, some of them will not sign. So I wished I had more control over that, but we definitely do not.
Thank you.
Any other question on the hazard tree program?
I would like to, sure, that hazard tree program, right?
The Butte Fire debris removal trees.
So, one of the things that I brought up a couple of months ago was to have a person within your department or a contractor, outside contractor, to come in and as a forest expert to work with Public Works, and and they could have actually helped with the RFP and that sort of thing too. And I was wondering if you think that it would have been helpful to have like that separate from your department so that it can manage the whole Butte Fire incident. Because from what I see is in many departments, except for Jason Boatser in environmental health, I think what they had going on was just actually perfect, because they had a whole outside crew basically come in, handle the removal. Jason, they just reported to him, and it didn't really put that extra burden, or at least a manageable burden on his regular department, so they continued to do their job. And they brought in a tremendous amount of support for what to remove all of the debris removal. And I know that what's happening now with your department is pretty similar to that, and in that you have this big giant contract, and you got a bunch of trees and all these studies, and you got and all this removal, and I don't see the buildup of support in your department to be able to basically do that without robbing from what's the regular business, and I'm concerned about that, and because I think it's just too much to ask in a lot of cases. So I am very interested in finding out how we can get there, and if there's a way for us to do that with, of course, recoverable. Recovering assets, recovering money.
Lots of ways to get to where we need to go. There was a fundamental difference between what Public Works is facing for Butte Fire recovery now versus what the Environmental Management Agency, Jason Boatser's agency, faced immediately post-fire. He was able to make a public health proclamation and have a trained crew of 50 to 80 people come in and occupy San Andreas and work with up to 35, I believe it was, debris removal crews, taking out over 27,000 truckloads of debris, over 35,000 tons of debris that was hauled out, resulted from burned structures. So it was a pre-established, experienced staff that was managed and funded through CalRecycle. On Public Works end of it, we, of course, have to follow different codes. We have to write requests for proposals, both for professional services and for contractors to do the work. And, so 3 ways to accomplish is to essentially build a fire recovery division for Public Works for the next 2 to 3 years. That's what they do. They take care of the trees, the roads and the ER program or the PA program, 2 different funding programs for our roads, as well as a hazard tree removal, build that out of consultants and contractors. You can hire additional employees that would be limited term, extra hire employees to do that work. You could build a team combined of those to do the work, or obviously we make the third choice, which is what I think is the worst choice, is we essentially release some of our Public Works employees from their day-to-day duties so that they have the time to pursue these programs. But you're looking for Public Works alone somewhere between $25 and $35 million of fire recovery programs, and that's the equivalent of 2 to 3 years of our entire Public Works budget. So one cannot expect the same number of staff to be able to essentially double their program on an annual basis and do it with the same amount of people.
So as we're moving out of the fire and fire recovery, we're going to be moving right into, and we probably should be already, into the tree mortality issue, and even on our public right-of-way. And I think, personally, I think we're a couple of months behind on that. I know that Tuolumne has had Mike Albright as a contracted employee, and he is their project manager for tree mortality. They've been actively working and getting their processes going, and I just don't want to fall too far behind. I also know that Amador has just done a similar deal, and I am a little concerned that because we have bug kill everywhere and on public right of way. I think we need to really tackle that.
So have you kind of tie in what the chair was saying there as far as bringing on additional consultants or outside support for this program that could then also be part of the bug kill going forward? Have you considered talking to admin about combining those two?
If I may chime in here, and I think we've told this board, and I think Mr. Moss, our assistant CAO, has told this board before, we were working and we had somebody that was going to come in and work with Public Works. On May 23rd, we met with Supervisor Edson, and he suggested that instead of this person, a forester would be more appropriate to be the project manager and even put forth a person that might be interested and would have the qualifications. We worked with this person. They expressed interest. We met with him on a number of occasions. The indication was that he could not start until July 1st. I think Mr. Moss sent repeated emails to the board to apprise them of the ongoing situation. We thought we were in agreement that he was going to come on board. Then we kind of lost contact with him despite numerous emails and phone calls, and only to find out that once the P&J contract was awarded, he said he had decided to turn down the job. So we are, in fact, looking at other resources and trying to find that person or contract the board. We can find somebody who can come in short term, or the board may want to do an RFP if they were looking at a consultant for a project manager, and we can bring that forward to the board as well.
Yeah, I do think it's just really critical, regardless of the past efforts, and I know that you have been trying as well as other folks in your office, but we just need to ramp that up and kind of put it up on the level of like a well, I mean, it just, let's put up an RFP, let's do more advertising, let's, pass it around to the board to recruit. Let's do whatever we can to get somebody on board, as quickly as we humanly can.
And we can issue an RFP within the next week and get it on. And that was one of the things that I was going to ask the board, because we were having difficulty finding or making contact with the people whose names we were given, that if we put out an RFP, we can get that out relatively quickly with a short turnaround time and bring back a project manager.
That would be great.
Well, and there's maybe other ways. I know that I have actually contacted 6 of them out there so far.
Well, then it would be nice if you would share those names with the administrative office.
And, well, I just did that. So, and then I, find out that they're all kind of busy right now because of all of the work that's going on out there. If you don't gobble them up really quickly, they just go. These folks have been sitting around for a long time trying to find work, and now there's an overwhelming amount of work out there for them. And they're pretty busy, as far as I can see. So I think that we may have to kind of step out of the box a little bit and maybe maybe get creative, and I'd be willing to work on that, because I think it needs to happen. Chris, if you don't, I mean, if you could work on it too, it'd be great.
Yeah, and I think issuing the RFP sounds like a good.
That's one way, but there may be other ways too, so I'd appreciate
Well, then
it.
I would appreciate it if you would work with our office as, it really, if you want the RFP and the board wants the RFP, we'll go forward with that. If the board is directing that supervisors write and Edson work on the project, I'd hope they would work with Assistant CAO Brian Moss so that it's a concerted effort and the administrative office is in fact involved.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I've been working, closely with Brian on this, every step of the way. And that's why I think that we just need to do even more, because we haven't been able to bring something down. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. One is the fact that there's a lot of dead trees in our state now, and so there's a huge need for this position. So I think issuing an RFP, and all of us continue to work with Brian Moss.
And working with Brian, I mean, I've been having meetings with Brian too. You just learn something new every day, almost. And so I would be happy to meet with Brian and discuss maybe some of the, I mean, I'm constantly thinking about things, and sometimes all night long. So I would like to bring that to Brian and talk about it.
And I don't want the board to have the impression that we haven't had extra hire, extra help, mission task to help with fire recovery, fire efforts. I do have a employee that's been, Mr. Seberg, that's been significantly helpful for both the hazard tree removal and the PA roads, public assistance roads, and the emergency recovery, ER program roads. And they are moving forward. They could move forward faster with more staff associated with that, and I've been working and having several discussions with CAO's office and HR on methods of achieving that. But Supervisor Edson is absolutely correct. Tree mortality is on us, and it is a much larger problem than the burn trees. We're talking 8,500 burn trees along county roads within the burn area, and countywide, the last estimate I saw from the U.S. Forest Service was over 650,000 bug-killed trees or drought-killed trees. I don't know the percentage of those on public right-of-way, but we are working on several pilot programs and ground truthing programs using aerial imagery to be able to make that determination, desktop determination, and verify that without having to take staff out of production and into the field to actually physically do counts, to wrap our arms around it. And then it's also important to know that while Calaveras County is in the second tier of counties for tree mortality, it is not in the funded category yet. We are next in line. So Amador has chosen to take essentially money out of the bank to move their tree mortality forward. Tuolumne is moving theirs forward, and they're utilizing not only internal general fund funds, but also CDA funds for that effort. So you've got to have, if you're going to have people working on it, be contract employees, extra hire employees, limited term employees, it doesn't really matter. You still need to be able to pay for them.
So, but my concern also is that's the right of way, but people are going to be coming to us for help with private properties too, and maybe resources that we may not be able to give them, but resources that maybe we can find out for them, and it's just going to happen. It's not just the burn area, but already in Arnold, and Mike knows this. He had a big old meeting there last weekend. And it's such a big concern. In fact, there's almost 500 people showed up at that thing. I know it's not. I'm sorry, I won't mention it anymore. So, but it is. It's something that it's going to have. We're going to have to help find a solution. And I believe that that we need to take action to be able to, put that group together and be ready for that. Of course, we have to to recover the funds for it, for sure. I'd be able to afford it, but we're almost at a point now where we almost can't afford not to. And so that's all I'm saying about that. Thank you.
I just want to remind the board, because I heard Supervisor Wright and Supervisor Edson wanting to be involved in the process. Certainly, having the two of you meet with staff to express the things that you would like to see in this position, that's fine. But once an RFP is drafted and is voted, the supervisors really should not be part of the process unless and until the contract comes to the board, because you are the entity that would be awarding the contract. So I just caution board members being involved on through the process. If the direction is direct staff to issue an RFP, to draft an RFP, and go out to bid for this position, certainly you can work with staff on the front end to say these are things that we would like to see. But at that point, hand the reins over to staff to then go through the process of the RFP and not be involved in that process, because again, the contract will be coming to you for final execution.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And I definitely don't want to be involved in that day-to-day operation level. I just want to make sure there's somebody that gets brought on board, to tomorrow as soon as possible. That's my concern. That's qualified to do it. I don't have any desire to be the person to go find that, that individual, bring them back, and write up the job description for them. I don't need to do that. I just want to make sure it's done, and anything that I can do as a board member to help move that forward, then I think that's what we're saying.
And Mr. Moss has requested from Tuolumne County the RFP that they use for their project manager, and so that's why I'm feeling that we can move that RFP forward really quickly.
I'll just leave it there. Okay. Also, with the, is that pretty good there?
I'm done on Butte Fire Recovery.
I have a little bit. But it doesn't have really anything to do with public works.
Okay, great.
So as far as Calaveras Recovers goes, I just want to report out that Red Cross has a position that they're filling for like an executive director to that board. They've done one interview, which was last Monday, and I believe they have one more interview to complete, and then they will have somebody that can help them coordinate all of the efforts, because it's really, really difficult for them to do that. Being just a board member, just like here, we just heard about being involved in day-to-day operations. We can't really do that. We need somebody like a Shirley that can put it all together and have it make sense and move in a very productive way. And so, and that's what they're attempting to do. And I believe they have one more interview, and they will have that person. They'll choose that person and be able to do that. So, and Red Cross is paying for that position for 1 year. It was on it was like $93,000 something amount that they provided for that, which was given to us early in the year, and then we took it and had Red Cross do that process, and so they should be finished with that soon, relatively soon. Also, Peter mentioned animal services and what's going on in the burn area with a lot of pit bulls, dogs, things like that, and a lot of it has to do with pot rows, of course. A lot of it has to do with maybe people just don't have resources to keep their animals anymore like they used to, and there's a lot of loose animals up there. And but I think that the overall thought is that it's because of the cannabis growers up there, and because they feel like they need to protect themselves or protect their property. And I believe that this might be an opportunity for us under the ordinance to be able to provide support for animal services because it is a part of the whole getting the boodle that's going on up there. And if we have the money in our request is that we have the money within our application fees to be able to support things that are going on with the ordinance around, whatever the requirements are. And if that, it's something I think it's something that we just don't really think of, that could be managed that way. And there could be that there's enough money in there right now to be able to provide that support, to have an animal service person be filled, and that person be assigned to just, that portion of the marijuana duties. So that's my thought. And that's, this wouldn't have actually, I don't think it was as intense before the Butte fire. I think Butte fire brought in a lot of extra stuff, and so I think that we should probably give that some consideration. And also, because of this whole influx, cheap land, people not wanting to keep it anymore, people coming in and buying it for cash, that sort of thing. It was one of the reasons I think why we pushed forward to even have an emergency ordinance. And I would like to, I've asked for a report on that, and I was told that I need to come to the board to ask for the report. So maybe we can get to that point. It has still to do with Butte Fire because of the influx of people that came there. So I would like to ask the board to have, to direct staff to be able to show the progress that's happening up in that area as well as other areas, but up in the Butte Fire area when it has to do, that is cannabis related in our ordinance. So.
I have a comment. I think this is off subject. I think that we've all asked for such a report, and I think giving staff the time, September 7th is the deadline to where everything should be in process and know where we are. So I think it would be better appropriate to see this in September to have a better picture as to where we are. In regards to animal services, I would like to see numbers. Are we talking about 10 cases or are we talking about 100 cases to see if it warrants anything, and perhaps this particular concern can be addressed when we see a better report in later September. But I think we're really off topic here.
Okay, well,
we can bring it up in the supervisor announcements.
Yeah, we can do that too. I hear a lot of people in the burn area complain about these things, so it has to do with the fire recovery.
Yeah, it does. There's definitely a connection there, but there's a lot of other areas that I've been getting calls on that weren't in the fire area either in my district. So I think it's happening across the county. So bring it up in the announcements.
Yeah, we're trying to fit it in somewhere. Okay. Is there any public comments on Butte fire recovery?
Good morning, Dennis Mills. I think it would be important for staff to find a place to put Governor Brown's Executive Order B-33-15 because I think that would be helpful. It speaks directly to the Butte Fire area in Calaveras County. I'd like to read the second paragraph of that executive order. It says, where timber is not being removed for commercial purposes, and that seems to be the key to this whole statement, landowners may make private arrangements for removal without undergoing either the emergency or regular process for permitting available to them at CAL FIRE. However, they may wish to contact other agencies like Department of Fish and Wildlife, Regional Water Quality, as additional restrictions may apply. So if it's not going to be sold for commercial use on private land, they do have options that don't require them to go through a timber harvest plan and have to face that gauntlet. So having that information available on the website for the county might be helpful as those people go forward in the burn area, especially with their private property, not so much with the easement areas.
So what would be your determination on what commercial use is?
Commercial is that you sell it.
So anything that you sell is commercial.
If you're selling it, that would be a key word. And in the executive order, they do list what commercial purposes means so that everybody can clearly understand the limitations. But if you're taking it down, you're going to use it on your own property, et cetera, and you're not selling it, it's not commercial purpose, you're fine. Okay? But I think it'd be helpful for everybody to have that information.
Thank you for bringing that forward.
Mr. Reyes from the 5th District of Jenny Lynn. Dead trees encompass a whole big area in both sides of the state lines. And I know we have the federal government that's going to be the steward of our nature. But I know everybody wants to be, let's just say, important in it. Where's the federal government, folks? I mean, it does include both county, state, and federal lands. How about putting a little poking in there in Washington? We have a congressman who's in charge of the natural resources, I believe. He's up for election. Get his butt in gear, okay? Because we do it each section, that's ridiculous, okay? It's duplications. Also, I would like to mention that we do have a private commercial zoning, SPI. I would like to know how they were affected by both the bugs and the fire. And it might be, I think they would do it with no extra charge, come down and talk to us, what they might recommend. Obviously shown that we have all these experts saving the natural resources in past years, but they were not even aware of these bugs. So they were a total flop with a very expensive habit. It turned out to be they were not knowing, even though they wanted to save nature for future generations. But let's get the feds in here, folks. We have a whole bunch of kings and queens in this different counties. Let's get the feds in there because both sides are affected, everybody, state, federal, and local levels. If all these different organizations wants to do something great, well, they want to get a piece of the action. That's wonderful. Let's get the feds in there. Let them take responsibility because they assume the responsibility to start with. And I tell you what, it's definitely not be decided in nice, quiet, off the reservation decisions made by anybody off the record.
30 seconds.
So, because we're going to be watching. I want none of that FEMA business that went on last time, but the last regime. So anything you do with the FEMA or anybody else, do it in the open, folks. But get the feds involved. They got the big purse, right? Thank you.
Now we can see. Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. I want to compliment you on the work you're doing on this. This is really complex, and it's far beyond my feeble brain to grasp the whole thing. But because it's complex and it's not usual for the counties like ours, little counties, to be involved with such things that really require a top-level management, experienced management skills to put together an overall proposal to how to handle the Butte fire. If you call it, like you could call that position maybe a coordinator, or it's not so important what you call the position, is that you need to entrust somebody with the skills to put together all the elements that are needed to bring about a solution. It's very hard to expect your existing public works to handle something of this nature without having that sort of experience. And so it seemed like if such a coordinator could be found, it would need to, of course, work with the CAO and Public Works and also federal government, state government, in putting the plans together. But the plans ought to be submitted directly to the Board of Supervisors for action. I think in doing it that way, you have a better chance of getting reimbursed from the federal. I understand there's a problem now because of the the complicated nature of the forms that are required, that there's a possibility of not getting reimbursed from the federal government. And other counties have experts brought in to be able to not let that happen. And so that could be another function of this coordinator. And then the coordinator could be specific for a particular problem, like the Butte fire, or tree mortality, or some other things that may come up that require extensive organization beyond what we're used to. So some of this, I understand you're already doing, and we really appreciate that, but that should be a consideration. Thank you.
Are you talking about a Office of Emergency Services county?
That would be, it would be under the control of the Board of Supervisors. It would be similar to that, yes. But also, what needs to be done in the case of reimbursement from the county and from the state, they need to have the skills to make sure that the applications are filled out right and the various bureaucratic part of it is done, so you don't have a situation where you've made commitments and obligations and you're not getting reimbursed because of bureaucratic red tape.
We're working on it now. Like everything else, it happens really quickly in government.
Oh, thank you.
I do wish I had a senior administrator coordinator as a homeowner who lost their house in the fire. There are just so many different things, and and that brings me to what I was going to say the week before, and that is that at those meetings there was talk that the tree removal program was free to the county. Well, it may be free to the county, but something that didn't hit home to me until 9-10 months after the fire was that if federal funds are used, and this was put in the contract for right of entry that we were asked to sign, as if we all knew that this was going to be the case, that if federal funds were used to do the clearance on the property, then the county needed to take the portion, or could take up to the total value of the portion of the insurance payout for trees, shrubs, and landscaping, which in my case is 5%. No, I was 50% underinsured, but of the 5%, that amounts to about $14,800. Now, I found that out in August. I had previously been asking the county if there were additional things that were coming down the pike that would impact the money being taken from the insurance payout, that we be informed. And so it came as a surprise, because the insurance company has paid out my $14,000, but I would be hard pressed to write a check to the county for that $14,000. And besides, where the trees, landscaping, etc., would be reasonably expected to be close to where your house would be, and not necessarily on the road.
20 seconds.
So I'm concerned about that. I wish we had known beforehand that we were going to be charged. Otherwise, I may have used the PG&E program that they were offering to cut down trees within a 100-foot perimeter of where the house used to be. And since my house used to be fairly close to Mountain Ranch Road, we could have solved that problem at no cost to me, no cost to the county by getting that done. But that program was offered December and expired January, and at that time there was no mention of the individual homeowner having to contribute, having to pay and use their landscaping, shrubs and trees money for this new hazard that's come up to our attention. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, I would.
There is a question for the board that we'd like to seek direction on. Being that there's not as much information on departments reporting at each of the Butte Fire report outs, do you want to continue to have them at every board meeting, or would you like to go to once a month updates? Or do you have any preference at all?
I'm still good with every board meeting.
I would like to see a more detailed report if we could, as far as what expenditures and what revenue came in. I know I had a chance to see some correspondence from our CAO and admin, but I know it's going to be difficult with the departments for reporting, but I would like to see a more detailed report of where the money's been being used.
For the Butte Fire?
For the Butte Fire.
We can, I will work with the auditor controller to bring forward a report on that.
For me, I think I would be okay with once a month if it was a more thorough report. If we could, like Mike suggested, the financials, update on whatever aspects of Butte Fire.
Because it would be, I think that's, that might be the way to go if we could get a more thorough report, like how many houses have been rebuilt, that kind of thing, that could be included in that.
Kind of more recovery.
Yeah. Because that would be, I think, good to know how we're doing on the recovery, and having, a month to prepare rather than each,
Good point. Monthly would be a great timeline.
I'm good with once a month.
Good. I'll reiterate once a month.
Okay, thank you.
I also on Butte Fire and Butte Fire recovery. I brought up before budget this year. I brought up the issue of OES director, and we said we were going to have a study session on it, and we've never had that. And I would like to ask the board to make sure that we're clear on what that we would actually like to have a study session on it and discuss how OES should look in Calaveras County in the future.
And actually, the administrative office is working with the sheriff's office to put together what that structure might look like and bring forward recommendations to the board. We had hoped to do it a lot earlier in the year, but when I approached Captain Macedo in January when he returned from Virginia, he expressed a preference to wait until a new sheriff was appointed, and of course that wasn't done until April. And since that time, the sheriff has been a little bit busy with all that is going on, including the cannabis cultivation ordinance. We did meet, it was 2 weeks ago, Friday. The staff is working on it. We are looking at other counties and what would work best. What are the best practices, what would work best under the guidelines of OES, because there's many components to emergency and Office of Emergency Services, planning, training, response, recovery, and whether it in one neighboring county it's located in the administrative office, and another neighboring county in the sheriff's office, and they want to look at some other counties that they feel do it very, very well and what that staffing would look like. So it is the intent to bring that forward to the board as soon as we have had, and the Sheriff's Office has had a chance to look at those, so that we can bring a very robust presentation to the board with a number of options.
So should we set a date for that, like in a month, September, the last meeting in September?
I don't believe that they can get that done that quickly, especially since we're in the middle of budget and trying to get budget resolved and the cannabis cultivation. I think it would more likely be October, beginning of November.
So,
that was the request of the Sheriff's Office, was to give them sufficient time to look, and that they felt that would take a month or two to put that together.
Okay, thank you.
So what I was requesting was a study session here to be able to bring all of that out into the open, and then to be able to decide, so that we can all put in our 2 cents on the experiences that we had, and the way things we think things should be directed as far as OES goes, and how that organization should be put together. I'm uncomfortable waiting that long, because we have a serious tree mortality issue right now with this time of the year when the lightning fire strikes are coming, and we may be into another emergency before we know it. I would like to be ahead of the game if we can, and at least get this process started. So I know that it's a stretch for everybody. I know that, but I also know that we made this request in probably March, and apparently it wasn't clear on what the board wanted, and I just want to make that clear on what the board wants, so that we can direct staff on what to do.
And once again, I think the board needs to have an abundance of information of what works well, and the only way that we're going to be able to do that is to do the necessary research, and that will take a lot of other time. Yes, we are in the middle of fire season, and we have a couple of months to go, and it makes me extremely nervous. But I really am concerned about making decisions without having adequate information and recommendations from people both through the state and other counties that of our similar size that do it well. And that was the preference of the Sheriff's Department as well. If we can bring representatives from the Sheriff's Office in at the 30th meeting and put an agenda item on to talk about how you want that to go forward in the future and the timelines you want. But they are working diligently to bring forward that information. They're also working on the emergency operating plan and updating that. And as I mentioned to them, when they bring that forward to the board, and they hope to do that at the meeting of the 13th, there's not a lot of changes in it. But if we change the structure and we rebuild OES, then that is going to dramatically also change the EOP. So, and we have an old, if you will, 74 ordinance county code that would have to be looked at with however the board chooses to restructure OES. So I think if we move too fast, you may make steps that you will want to retract, and I think it's better if we do it in a structured format.
May I say something? So what I recall the conversations back in, February, March, April, we directed staff to, look at it at budget time, and I think that's what we did. At budget time, we said that, yes, we wanted to take a look at this and directed staff to take a look at what OES is and some options. I'm thinking if we could hear this back on, say, October 11th, it would give staff time to put together some useful information for us to digest, as well as bring our ideas into play at that point. It would be a study session. So we would hear from staff, and it would give staff ample time I think the concentration is on admin in the sheriff's department, and there might be other departments that might want to weigh in and give information to this particular study session. As I look at September, we have a lot of activity going on in regards to the budget, and, that's going to bog down staff time. We're looking at a lot of annual information in September. So I would suggest perhaps that first Tuesday on the 11th, or if we need to have a special Tuesday meeting just to have a study session on this item, because it's quite detailed, and there's a lot of history in regards to OES, and there's a lot of funding options, you might say. So perhaps it merits, breaking it out and having a special meeting on an off-board day to take a look at this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying there, but like today, for instance, well, theoretically, this is a short agenda. We are on the first real agenda item. But we could have done it today easily. We could have had a whole afternoon, So it just depends on, I don't see any problem doing it on a regular meeting agenda, as long as we have the time. But I do think that that it is overdue, as much as I would like to say, have staff prepare and make that kind of logical flow of things. I do realize that coming up is the anniversary of our fire, and we still I don't know. I just think that we should do it sooner. We should have a study session sooner, and then have that discussion about at least where we're at, so everybody on the board and the public has a chance to know how OES is supposed to operate or is operating in the county. And then, then once staff has input, from the board, then you can go back and bring it back as a regular agenda item after that. But at least bring it forward now to have that discussion is a reasonable request. I'm not saying we need to change everything, but let's just make sure everybody's on the same page with what we're talking about. I don't think we are, and I don't think the public is. I don't think the sheriff's department. So I'd like to have everybody have that discussion so we actually agree on the terms that we're using. What does that even mean, OES? So if we don't have that now, then we're putting it off until November, and I mean, I don't mind if you want to put off until January, I'll be gone. But I think it would be worthy of at least having a discussion sooner rather than later.
Okay, so here's the issue. The agenda, it's too late to put it on the agenda for the August 30th meeting. On September 13th, we start budget hearings, and that will be going on pretty much the whole week. So then you have the September 27th meeting, which we will be wrapping up and doing the budget resolutions. We could do it that afternoon, or we can do it either a special meeting the first Tuesday in October or the second Tuesday in October, which is what Supervisor Ponte suggested.
So has the 30th agenda been put out yet?
You really want us to put together a board packet in the next 8 hours? That would be almost impossible.
What I'm asking for is discussion. And then...
But you need a framework for that discussion, and trying to put that together is very challenging.
Well, we could do it that next meeting, first Tuesday.
Of September?
Yeah.
That would be the day after Labor Day.
Yeah. Is that, I mean...
it's the board's decision.
Question.
But it will put a strain on your sheriff staff.
Say, O'Ryan, you mentioned that budget is going to take the whole week?
I don't know. We usually schedule it for the week. And at recommended budget, we were done on the second day. At both final and recommended last year, we were done on the second day. But I don't know. It can change from year to year. I'm hopeful that it will not take all week, but on the other hand,
what are the dates?
That was news to me on
13th.
I'm going to be out of state on that Thursday.
So hopefully we get it done in 2 days.
Yeah, well,
I hope we do.
We'll get it done in one day, that'd be great.
I think it'd take all week.
I'm hopeful.
I thought it was a final, you're getting a preliminary.
yeah, I don't think it's going to take that long. Well, we might want to add some stuff later on.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think in the back of everyone's mind is the same thing as what's in the back of my mind, that last year on September 9th, an inferno destroyed about a third of our county. And I can tell you, because I was there was chaos the first few days, and the supervisors were basically running the county in an emergency sense in a way that maybe we should have had an OES person doing. And that's what we're trying to solve right now. Maybe what we need to do is schedule a special meeting, which is a study session, as soon as possible, that gives you clear direction so that you don't waste your time in developing this. And I think that's what, because I know Cliff has been bringing it up since spring, and Chris is sort of saying the same thing, if I'm hearing him correctly. And we are still on the Butte Fire on the agenda, right?
Yes, we are. So, name a date.
So let's just do it on the first Tuesday of September. They have to live there.
I'm good with that.
Good for you?
Sure.
First Tuesday of September will be the 6th, after Labor Day. I could do that.
So the key player here is the sheriff's department, correct?
Yeah, that's a very important part. I will let them know.
If they really cannot, then let us know and we'll work with them on it.
All right.
But I think if we, and to coin a term that has been used up here before, if we do kick this can down the road any further, we're not going to get anywhere with it.
Any public comments on this particular item?
Peter raised gentlemen, there's only one group that's not been mentioned. How about the firefighters? The ones who go out and do it. Maybe they have some input on it. I mean, it's nice to have a sheriff department. I love to hear the staff. But you got all these fire districts. They have elected officials. They might have some input on it to get coordinated, because what happened in the past was, I don't want to use the adjective, but it wasn't quite satisfactory. Let's get the firefighters involved also. Thank you.
I really think you need to be doing something to be seen to be doing something. If there's nothing really significantly different from how things were back last September, I mean that's pitiful. People should be ashamed of that. Not only do the people that lost their houses or came very close to losing their houses, they should know what the county is doing so as to have an officer of emergency services and have a plan. Have a plan. And then all those people who escaped and good for them not being affected by the fire this time. Chances are the fire's going to, a fire or a disaster, it doesn't have to be a fire, but a disaster is going to strike in a different part of the county, and then everyone's going to be asking, well, geez, didn't anything change from a few years ago? Or, you know, however long it's been. So I really do think you need to be seen to be doing something out in the community, and you need to have what you should have had in place yesterday, if you didn't have it September the 9th. That's my feeling anyway. And I think you certainly need to have Chris's input and those people who were on the board when the fire broke out, and not kick the can down the road so that that neither Chris nor Debbie are involved in the discussions, that would be, that doesn't even bear thinking about. You'd be so very foolish to have that happen. Thank you.
Any other public comments on this? All right. So, just to be clear, this is something, and I know that we've all been busy, but I've been pushing for this for quite a few months. And to me, it is one of the most important things we can do for our county. And we should definitely make it a priority, because, and it's not just, there's folks out there that responded, the community responded, the fire districts responded, the water districts responded. You know, we had everybody responding, and you know, there's some things that, and I think that, you know, not to take away from anybody, that I think the county did everything possible that they could. I think the sheriff's office did a wonderful job, because they did most of the, or all of the evacuations and that sort of thing. You know, and there were many other people. Everybody actually in the county chipped in and worked together on it. That's not an issue. I mean, I think that's wonderful. But I think it could be so much easier, and that's why I want to make sure that we are clear as a board and as staff on what that organization looks like, and to make sure that that we have something in place that we have this experience now with this big giant catastrophe. You know, you could say that other counties, it works well. Well, there are very few counties in California that had this big giant catastrophe like we did. And so what may work well somewhere else might be different here, because we definitely have had a very unique situation here. And so everybody learned from it. I think everybody needs to have their input on it. And I know the board does. And so that's why I think it's really important that we move forward as quickly as possible before we get into another one.
So, Chair, can I just clarify, are we having a 9 a.m. start time for that meeting?
Which meeting?
September 6th?
I think until we talk to the sheriff, it's a little tentative. Is it not?
Can we not confirm a date and time and then
I think
change?
we should go ahead and set it, and then, you know.
If needed?
Because there's a lot to discuss.
9 a.m. September 6th is good with me. The board, you know, I'm just one person on the board, so what do you guys think?
Yeah, it's fine if the sheriff's like, oh, that's the day we're doing this huge training exercise, and, you know, we can't do it then.
9 a.m. would be consistent with your normal start time.
Yeah,
for meetings.
Just to bring up a bit of information, that's going to be Labor Day weekend. It's going to be a very active weekend for the Sheriff's Department, and that will be the first business day back. So anything happening over the weekend, that could put that morning meeting in somewhat jeopardy, so maybe we shouldn't talk to the sheriff.
Well, we
Just a point of information.
I will have a conversation with the sheriff's office this afternoon.
And then, yeah,
I don't care what time the meeting starts. Like, you know, whatever staff thinks is fine, or admin thinks is fine.
That would work, yeah.
Yeah, we want to move it back later in the day.
Well, I actually have to cancel something to be here that morning, so if we did it at 1 o'clock, it'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys want to do it at 1?
1 o'clock?
I can do it 1 o'clock.
Great.
Perfect.
Because there's charging and for in custodies and things.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for confirming.
All right. We're
Okay.
going to take a 5-minute break, okay?
Now I don't have to cancel something.
Yeah, I have been here yet. No, I probably can't.
Depend on Susan's skill to get it all on tape.
A lot of people watch it now.
So they are watching.
Because I can't believe it. People are watching.
Okay, thank you for letting us take our break. And next agenda item is
Item 4 is from the Administrative Office to ratify the approval of a lease of the Hubbard Building located at 7 Main Street, San Andreas, California, to the Calaveras County Chamber of Commerce for a term of 2 years beginning May 1st, 2016, and ending April 30th, 2018, for the Calaveras Business Resource Center with an annual rent of $1 per year for the term of the lease and the public benefit finding.
Okay, so I'm going to have to recuse myself from this particular agenda item because this lease was previously brought forward and approved by the board. I volunteered on the Chamber of Commerce. I actually am a board member, which I recused myself during that committee meeting when we were talking about bringing it forward to here. But so I'll be, I guess, I'll have to recuse myself here too. So I volunteer on the Chamber of Commerce board, but do not have a financial interest in this lease at all. In an abundance of caution, I recused myself from a vote on the lease when it was considered by the Chamber. Now, although I do not have a financial interest other than giving a whole bunch of money to the Chamber of Commerce, I got to tell you that, because that's what we do. I've asked that this item be brought back for consideration by the board and recuse myself from this discussion and action. Under Rule 30 of our procedures, I am leaving the boardroom and will return once the item is complete, and I am very happy and honored to let Chris take over this agenda item.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. All right, is there a report from
Basically, as stated in your report that was brought to you in April of this year, the Chamber had requested to use the Hubbard Building as a resource center for the businesses in the county, and that being the public finding that it's of benefit to the county. For the annual rent of $1 a year, they are working on a grant to get funding for manning and supporting the resource center. In the board item, since we've been through this all again before, it lays out what the Business Resource Center will provide to businesses in this county and how it will benefit the those businesses and residents of the county. As Supervisor Edson stated, when it went to the Chamber Board originally for approval, he recused himself at that time. When it came to the board, feeling that he had recused himself at the chambers, he thought he could vote on it and here at the board, but because even though he has no financial interest, because it could be a perceived conflict in for cautionary reasons, we are bringing it back to the board for the board's reconsideration and ratify the lease and the public findings of benefit.
Okay, any board comments?
Question. This doesn't, I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. I have a real simple one. This doesn't require 4/5.
No, it does not.
Okay. Just a point of information. What happens after April 30th, 2018? Our options are to extend this program, or are they going to be self-sufficient, or is there a lease program that's going to go into effect?
The lease is for the term of the grant. If the grant is not awarded, the lease is automatically void and null. And if they cannot sustain after that, we'll have to come back to the board for either an additional lease if they have additional funding, or the lease will expire.
Okay. Thank you, CEO Ron. I have nothing more.
Public comments?
Yes, good morning. Referring to the lease itself, number 13, assignment and default, the second statement is the chamber will deposit any and 50% of all revenue from rent received. That's kind of a disconnect.
They are part of the whole grant process is to allow
Sublease.
businesses some space, and they will be collecting rent from them as part of a leasee and depositing a portion of that rent into a fund to use to continue with the ADA renovations to the building.
No, I understand where you're going, but it's just that the statement itself is quite unclear. If you read it, just read the words themselves. The chamber will deposit any and 50% of all revenue from rent.
It's a typo, yes.
Okay. I'm just asking that there be some correction made to that statement to clarify. Thank you.
We can correct that.
Mr. Reyes, 5th District, gentlemen, I got a question for you on one of them. Is that on number 2, I believe it's on page 4A, this whole thing is depending on if they're going to get the grant or not. And you assume anything over $7,000 that go over, you're assuming that cost in behalf of the taxpayers also. It's a great organization, I support it, but it would be nice to know the actual, is that going to get the grant or not? And if you do get the grant, it's wonderful. And if it's going to cost more than $7,000 you can read it right in front of you. I just busted my glasses, but there's a lot of things that's floating around there. The dollar sounds great for the great organizations, but there's a lot of money floating out there if and when, if they could, and so on. So that would be nice to get some definite commitments, one way or another. If this is a great organization, I'd like to know what its goal and what it's supposed to accomplish at taxpayers' expenses, instead of just, hey, it's a good thought and it's real nice. But let's get some figures in here. What's the actual, nail it down, the numbers. $1 is nice, but you putting in there a lot of potential over $7,000, you're assuming it. If the whole thing's going to go down the drain, if you don't get the grant, when are you going to find out if you're going to get the grant or not? Thank you.
We should be hearing any day whether or not they have received the grant. They weren't exactly sure when that would be. They have not moved into the building, and they won't until we know whether the grant has been awarded or not. The utilities, we took some historical trends and costs to ensure that what the utilities would be. We do not feel they will exceed $7,000 unless there's some significant rate hikes over the next 2 years. But they were concerned about that, and we felt the risk to the county was minimal. And the board, as you recall, approved this in April, and it's just back to ratify.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Can I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries for one
Recuse. Item 5 is from Public Works to adopt a resolution to approve the replacement of a failed stormwater culvert at 6031 Mountain Ranch Road without giving notice for bids, requiring a 4/5 vote as outlined in Chapter 2.5 Emergency Contracting Procedures of the Public Contract Code, and authorize payment of a $47,360.63 invoice from Sutton Enterprises for the work performed.
Jeff Kravitz, Public Works. This item is an emergency item where we found the need to perform emergency repair work on a major roadway, sudden discovery, we had to close the roadway and reopen it quickly. Both the Public Resources Code and the county ordinances make provisions for emergencies of this type. Approximately 6 miles east of San Andreas on Mountain Ranch Road, there's a large culvert, creek crossing, large diameter culvert. It was a corrugated metal pipe, pretty old, and nearing the end of its useful life. With the fire and increased sediment carried in the runoff during the storms through the winter and into the spring, the bottom of the culvert failed out, and so water started flowing beneath the culvert. It washes out the backfill around the culvert and would have led to a collapse of the roadway. At that point in time in March, we were in the middle of debris removal operations with a number of trucks. They were working 6 and 7 days a week at the time. And one of the contractors working on debris removal was Brad Sutton, and he had equipment adjacent nearby. So under the finding of an emergency, we agreed to a scope of work to shut the road down, provided detour signage, which we did with our crews. Sutton came in and removed the old culvert, placed a new culvert, backfilled it, and did some temporary paving over the top of it. There's still a little bit more work required to complete the project, and that will be done by our own crews under our current budget to complete this work. We still have an entrance float-in section to put in and a little bit of more rock stabilization on the inlet side of this drainage. Those of you who have driven the road can see the location because we backfilled the culvert, the top portion of the culvert, with a concrete slurry, so you can see a change in the color of the pavement. The reason we went that way is so we could get traffic back onto the roadway more quickly. It resulted in about a 3-day closure, one of which those days was a Sunday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday was closed. We were back open on Wednesday. This item requires the board to make a finding that we were in an emergency. It was a very important corridor that was compromised, and in the interest of public health, safety, and welfare, we had to go with a non-competitive bid public contract to get this road reopened in time, and also to allow the payment to be made to Sutton Enterprises for the work that they did. Questions on this item?
Mr. Provost, is any of this emergency repair, is there any reimbursement from FEMA due to the Butte Fire?
Not for this item. In FEMA's calculation, this is a post-fire event. The federal declaration was for immediate and direct damage caused by the fire. Loss of culvert, drainage issues, flooding issues are not directly fire caused, and therefore they're not eligible for federal funding. There is the potential, since Mountain Ranch Road is a federal aid eligible roadway within the county, and it is covered on the Federal Highway Emergency Recovery Program, that some of this work may be eligible, but we will have to apply for that as we get that program moving ahead.
Was this culvert scheduled for any type of repair if we remove the Butte Fire traffic on our public works schedule?
No, it wasn't, but we do periodic inspections of all of our culverts. It's a summertime, fall activity when water flow is low to make sure that culverts aren't compromised. So this happened to be a culvert that was nearing the end of its useful life, and due to the changed environmental conditions of the fire, its end was accelerated.
Thank you, sir.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say thanks for getting on this. Thanks for hiring a local company to do it. I realize that sometimes there are reasons not to go and do the slow way of coming before the board, getting an agreement, but you did the right thing, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I remember that morning, actually. It was very worrisome to me because of the way it rained. And so I took a trip down to Cosgrove Creek and all the way up through Mountain Ranch just to see, make sure that things were rolling. And I did go across that culvert, actually. There were like 5 before it that were plugged up and going across the road at that time. So there was some pretty serious flow issues going on. And with all of the truck traffic, the heavy truck traffic going across there, I could see how it could potentially be a serious hazard immediately, really. So I appreciate you going up and taking a look at that as well. Your crew did, because there was some contact with them. So it is what it is.
I would expect that we will have more of this kind of situation as we move ahead. It's an indicator that culverts that were installed in the same era are nearing the end of their useful life and will need to be replaced.
Okay. Any public comments?
This is a county road, right?
Yes. Mountain Ranch Road. Any public comments other than that? Okay. Board?
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion by Supervisor Kearney, a second by Supervisor Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. It's 5-0 in favor. Consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion. Oh, sorry. Any members of the public wish to? I'm relying on you now. Anybody? Any members of the public wish to remove a consent agenda item?
You guys getting us?
I was just waiting for you because usually you come in after we say.
I was going to talk about this now.
Any members of the board wish to remove consent agenda item?
No. No.
I will remove item number 8.
Which one?
8. Why? I'll be telling you that in a minute.
I don't think
so. So can I have
I'll make a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
Second the motion.
So we have a motion by Supervisor Wright, second by Supervisor Kearney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Wait.
You say it.
Okay. This item comes from First 5 Calaveras. Authorize the board chair to sign an agreement with the Calaveras County Office of Education for the provision of the children's dental program for the period of July 1, 2015 through June 30th, 2016 in an amount not to exceed $76,000.
Okay. Any public comments?
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm Terry Lane, Executive Director for First 5 Calaveras, and I feel like I'm almost preaching to the choir talking to each of you because I know that each one of you knows how important dental services are in our county. And so I'm here on behalf of the little ones who are 3, 4, and 5 years old to say that this contract is very important. There are about 1,000 children under 5 years old in Calaveras, and this contract helps to serve about a third of them, giving them preventative services and education about taking care of their teeth and about seeing the dentist, doing cleanings and fluoride treatments. And being that, as you're well aware, that we don't have a Dent-A-Cal provider in the county, this is just such an important service. The majority of the children that are seen by the hygienist are low income. They're eligible for Head Start, for state preschool, for subsidy in preschool. And we have been funding this project for the last several years, and it's been very, very successful. I was able in May to go to the dental van. It was up in Arnold, and it was just great to be there. Personally, I'm not super thrilled when I go to the dentist. I don't jump for joy. But to see the children go in there and not be scared and not be afraid and to actually be excited about talking to a dentist that's friendly. They got to sit in the dentist chair and go up and down and count their teeth while they were being screened and then get their own toothbrush and toothpaste. It was just a really cool thing to see. And it's only a little bit of what this grant or this contract does. So I just ask you to take that into consideration and to please approve it. Thank you.
Peter Rage, General Lingford District. I'm looking at the numbers over here. You're going to buy another van, I believe. But what's really question is that indirect cost, administration, no more than 10% of the total cost, which is going to be $5,700. Who gets that $5,700 for administration? Is that the county getting it, or the good folks who are doing this work? And I also would like to know what was accomplished last season, last year. I mean, this is a on-running program. I would love to hear what a success they had. Give me the numbers, how many patients they had. So, reason for a dental hygienist, wonderful. New van, new mobile. What happened to the last one? And who gets who's skimming off 10% over here? Thank you.
Alsagala Taxpayer Association. This is a very noble cause, and I don't think anybody would want to deprive poor kids from having proper dental care. But you're not a charity. You're representing local government, and you're taking money by force from the taxpayers for functions that should be spelled out. And it would seem like it would be good for you to help in a fundraiser where people can voluntarily donate to this worthy cause. You can do it individually. You might even be able to do it off the podium. But you don't have authority to use taxpayer money for charity. It's just not right. Where does that stop? By how good it feels? What? Okay. Taxpayer money, support this, yes. Taxpayer money, no. Thank you.
Yeah, come on.
So I was going to answer about the taxpayer money. First of all, this contract is not funded at all by the general fund, not a penny. It all comes from First 5 California, which receives their money from the Proposition 10, which is the tax on tobacco that was passed back in 1998. And the purpose of those taxes are to serve children up to 5 years old and their families for their health and their welfare. And obviously, dental is a big part of that. It is a priority in our county's First 5. When we did our strategic plan 2 years ago, dental was one of the top priorities. And so this is being funded solely through First 5 tax money that was set for this.
And I'd like to know...
Wait. I'm sorry.
Terry, I'd just like to note, too, I mean, it's a very detailed arrangement. And in this, you do state, and maybe for the record, to, the children that you reach out to. I mean, it talks about you are going to have 300 folks with oral health education and a one-time assessment, and I would assume this number is based on years prior and who you were able to reach out to. And 150 of those children will receive a dental cleaning, and over 225 will be children who will get a fluoride-type treatment.
That is correct. We do not have our stats for this year as we're just gathering those, but in the past it's been very close to 300 children, and that is based on the young children that are enrolled in preschool. The hygienist goes to all the Head Starts, all the state preschools, and a majority of the private preschools in the area. So actually in the last couple of years, that number has increased as we've added the state preschool and the private preschools onto that list.
And it's my understanding that we don't have many dentists in this county of ours that accept Medi-Cal. In fact, we have one, to my knowledge.
To my knowledge, we have 0.
Okay.
And so that means that these families who would be on Denti-Cal would have to go out of county for this service.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the one local dentist here that is extremely involved in this program is Joanne Motsu. And this is, she does a lot of great work at her office. If you, being a business owner here and watching a lot of the kids, a lot of the parents come into our establishment, we see a tremendous amount of young kids that have serious dental problems, and then that also leads to sicknesses, illnesses that can be escalated, and then now we're paying medical bills too. So, plus when as a young person grows up, their teeth mean an awful lot to them. When they start getting in school, it has a lot to do with their not only their health but their self-esteem, maybe even picking up a job. And I know that for this small amount actually that we're taking from the tobacco tax, by the way, then the benefit of it is just it exceeds it. So, not to mention the savings that is involved when it comes to not paying that medical bill because some of these teeth get so bad, in fact, that it could put little kids in the hospital. And so, until we could figure out a way to solve this issue around some other way, and I believe that the outreach that they're doing, educational outreach, is hugely important because I also think that some of these parents are learning from it too, taking their kids there, which is a benefit. So that's my 2 cents. Anybody else would like to say anything?
I just think First Five does a great job across the board, and this is just one example of the many good things that bring to the community, and it really is absolutely critical. And we're facing a dental crisis throughout the country and the state, and it comes down here locally too. And we have to come up with solutions here. And Al brings up, well, we don't do it with taxpayer money. I don't care how it's done. I mean, let's just do it. If he has, the Bill Gates Foundation wants to come and write a check for several $1 million for us to take care of all of our problems, that's great. If he wants to donate, that's great. But this is a solution, at least a part of a solution to a very difficult problem. And to not accept it because of some ideological bent would be crazy. And so I think that we definitely need to move forward on this, and we should bring back into the future, how do we deal with these problems, both, private enterprise and public partnership to address it. I know that the MAC is opening up a dental clinic, hopefully within a few months here in San Andreas, and that will be great, providing more dental services for folks. So
I'm halfway done with that now.
Yeah, they're moving forward. So And then I did notice that it did say the year 2015 to 2016, so maybe that is a typo?
That's the correction I was hoping to make to the board. The contract is correct. It does say 16 to 17, however, on the agenda. So when you approve this item, you need to approve it from July 1st, 2016 to June 30th, 2017.
Or we would have been back in next week. That's true.
I make a motion to approve.
Can I ask a question first? Is there a plan to buy a van in this? I mean, I have looked through this a gazillion times, and in fact, if anything, I saw a restriction on buying fixed assets.
There's no plans with our budget at this time to buy a van.
Okay.
And we're actually using a different van service than we did a couple of years ago.
Thank you very much.
Van service?
It's a rental.
Right.
I looked and I could not find it, so I appreciate you.
Who gets the 10%?
So this is through the County Office of Education, and so the administrative fees go to the County Office of Education.
Basically 10% off.
All right, any other comments from the board?
No, I interrupted Supervisor Connie when she was making a motion.
Yeah. I would just make a motion to approve the agreement with the Calaveras County Office of Education for the provision of children's dental program for the period of July 1, 2016 through June 30th, 2017 in the amount not to exceed $76,000.
Okay. Second? Second. So we have a motion by Supervisor Ponte, a second by Supervisor Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, excuses, small time.
You'll help them if you'll smoke more.
All right. Going out there, Peter.
People probably worry about that.
Supervisor announcements.
Well, you wanted to bring something up with this, all right?
We have plenty of time.
You got it written down.
Seems like I've done a lot of things since the last time we met. I can't remember them all, but I attended the Commission on Aging meeting as I call myself a de facto member. I don't truly vote, but I listen. And one of the things that I have been working on, the Parker family from Dadasa Ranch opened their ranch up on October 12th for the Senior Volunteer of the Year luncheon. The plans are still evolving. I'm pretty excited about that. It's a beautiful facility, and it's nice to try something different, and I'm looking forward to that. Last Saturday, I was a judge at Calaveras Has Talent. If you've never been to one of these shows, I truly encourage you to go. We have people in this county who are so amazingly talented. I was really in awe. From piano playing to singing to dancing, and believe it or not, there were two young men performing with yo-yos that absolutely had you mesmerized. It was really a good experience for me. Attended a VSA, Valley Springs Area Business Association lunch. Our librarian, Nancy Giddens, was the presenter. She did a very good job. We should all be proud of her. It was good to hear her speak. We have heard her before, and I'm glad to see that the county is getting to know her. Yesterday in the afternoon, I attended the Solid Waste Task Force meeting, of which I am the chair of the meeting. I want to say over the year, actually since I've been sworn in, when we first began this, that the task force had not met in quite some time, but I really feel very proud of the progress we made. You're going to see a couple things come before you in the next couple of months. Everything is intertwined to help us reach some of our goals. We have some lofty goals that have to be met because the state's telling us we have to do it. But we're well on our way. There are some things also that part of the biggest challenge when you have something like this is knowing what needs to be done. Something as simple as showing proof of residency when you use the drop-off points for your garbage. That's a very big deal, and we're working on that now. Also, there'll be an RFP, request for proposal, to do a study on where we're going with the solid waste, where we need to be, and a plan for multiple years coming ahead. There's a lot of other things I could probably talk for an hour on. I want to thank Director Krovitz. He's worked with me over the last year and a half. I've learned a lot more than I ever planned on knowing, even with the disruption that we all experienced with the Butte fire. I think we've brought it a long ways, and we've got a handle on where we're going with it. Thank you.
Next. Thank you, Sheriff.
On our day following the board meeting from the 9th, I attended our local tree mortality task force meeting here for Calaveras County. Received an update from Brian Moss and all the agencies attending that. There are a number of agencies that attend that on the local level. I think we're about 40 people in that meeting on any given time. The information passed off from the governor's task force was actually reviewed. There's some information that was disseminated on the 13th at the tree mortality town hall meeting held in Avery. As Chair Edson stated, we had approximately between 450 to 500 people attend that meeting. It was videotaped by our public access TV, and that is on Facebook. It is on the county website, I understand. Very informative meeting, very informative. Do we have any answers? Not a lot, I'll be quite honest with you. To address public comments, Mr. Ross, we actually had representatives there from about 16 different agencies or entities, if you will, including Congressman McClintock's office, Assemblyman Bigelow's office, SPI, Caltrans, Department of Insurance, CAL FIRE, our public administration, our public works. It was a very informative time to meet and greet these folks. As a result of that meeting, there are several issues that I'm going to be presenting on a state level at the Governor's Task Force meeting and on a national level through the cooperation and the introductions I've made through going to NAFCO to seek alternative recourse for our private property owners. We have a big problem with federal funding with FEMA. We're trying to overcome that. And that has to be dealt with on a federal level where they'll accept the issue of our tree mortality problem being a disaster instead of resulting in a disaster when we have a fire. I can't discuss those issues right now as far as what I have in mind. It's very preliminary, but I am going to be seeking an audience with Congressman McClintock, Assemblyman Bigelow, with a group of individuals to see if we could address this thing in a more expeditious fashion and get some relief for our private property owners, in addition to our public lands. I intend to hold, and with the cooperation of CEO Ryan, we have discussed this, I intend to look at having some budget money available to hold town hall meetings like this due to the fact it was such a success. We'll be discussing that, I believe, at a future meeting.
Yes.
Next Tuesday.
That's Tuesday, yeah. Make sure you come.
Well, yeah, make sure you're working with me on that.
I will do that.
And especially when they're in my district.
I will do that, and
Just want to make sure that
we'll keep that going after, no offense, but after you decide not to serve, I'd like to keep that program going. I'm sure you're going to help me on that one, Chris.
I have being that I live in the middle of dead trees, I will be intimately involved for many years to come. Yes.
I attended the LAFCO meeting on Monday. Very good meeting. We got some real good things done. We have a letter coming to the board regarding some land use issues for general plans. I attended the fire board meeting on Ebbets Pass. I try to make that as best as possible. And I'd like to praise Ebbets Pass Fire Department. They've got some things going in the right directions. Their board of directors are doing the right things. So pretty proud of those folks. On the 17th, I attended a public meeting for our Economic Development District, which we're a part of, the Central Sierra. That's the entity that's actually applying for the grant for the Chamber of Commerce, doing some other things. And we're in the process of developing our 5-year plan for economic development for the Tri-Counties, Tuolumne, and Calaveras. Steering committee has met. We had a series of mini town hall meetings to get input, and that's given us direction of what we're going to do for the next 5 years. We had Saturday a town hall meeting for the sheriff, Rick DeBasilio, up in the Arnold area. We had about 4 or 5 events going on that particular Saturday in Arnold, but it was attended by about 45, 50 people. A lot of discussion was held, but it was geared, as you would guess, towards the marijuana issues. A lot of information disseminated there, and once again, we're dealing with that issue. I will be attending the Calaveras Action Agency training on Monday. That's something that's going to be held for all of our board members, not here, but in our committee members. Make sure we go in the right direction on that. And on September 1st, I will be attending the CSAC board meeting in Sacramento to take care of county business as it pertains to the state. For those folks that don't know what CSAC is, California State Association of Counties, all 58 counties are represented there. Very strong legislative group, very good organization to be with. And we're proud to be part of that, and I'm proud to be the representative for that. Thank you.
I attended the Central Sierra Child Support Meeting. It was held in Bear Valley. We rotate between the several locations. It's a joint power agreement with Tuolumne County, Alpine, Amador, and Calaveras. Approved the budget. Basically, this particular agency performs in a joint powers arrangement, and we heard a report from our executive director that our agency continues to be basically in the top 10, you might say, in the county in regards to collection for child support and supporting our children. We have an EMS meeting. Typically, it's held in the first part of August, but due to attendance, we have a meeting scheduled for next Wednesday, the 31st, in Copperopolis, Copper Fire Station at 9 a.m. And we will have the in-home Health Services Advisory Committee next Monday at 10 o'clock at the Senior Center, for which I'll be attending. I do want to make comment in regards to the Planning Commission. I see where they are now addressing the land use individual requests, you might say, to make various designations, and that process is kicked off, and it seems to be somewhat thought out and organized, and that they'll be looking at having people appear before the commission asking for their requests in regards to land use, and they're doing it by district and kind of I don't know if it's alphabetical or not, but it seems to be very organized in that regards. And so anyway, I look forward to the continued progress towards our general plan, and hopefully we'll see something this fall as a result of the work that's been done over the last year or so in regards to the mapping and land use and all the different criteria that they've been addressing almost on a page-by-page basis, it seems like, on the proposed general plan. That's all I have.
So I also attended the local task force meeting regarding the beetle problem. And that's really, there's kind of the trifecta basically in my district. You got the fire recovery, you got the bug trees disaster, and then you have the cannabis farm. So those are the three major key issues that I work on a daily basis, basically. And so it's pretty fascinating times to be a District 2 supervisor. And I look forward to being a District 2 citizen soon. But I met with the Natural Resources Department to work on ideas for getting various funding programs going, kind of building off an idea that has been floating around there a lot. Basically, we need to have continuous funding to come into our watersheds and to our forests for management and restoration, and we're seeing the results of what that mismanagement has done, right now through the dead trees and the fires. So one of the ideas I'm pursuing is on a statewide level is having every water district that basically mandate that every water district in the state have a fee collected. And it could be a very small fee, but if you do it over the course of everybody in California who's getting water from water districts, and then that fee has to go back into the management of the watershed. If you did that on a statewide basis, you'd have a continuous supply of funding to deal with these problems. So I'm floating that idea out there. I mean, it's one of the ideas that Cliff had locally and that other people have had to do with local water districts, but it's kind of a version of that. And it's not original by any means, but I'm just kind of reintroducing the idea out there and seeing, floating that out there. So see what people think, because it is a way to because we need a lot of money to get this back to where it's sustainably managed. Because in the past we had actual mills, local mills that could provide income and could provide sustainable management of the forest, and we don't have that now. And so we have to look at different ways of getting active management and restoration in the watershed. So that was some of the discussion I had this last week and a half. And also attended the McCollum Hill Town Hall. Actually, it was at the park. Great little park there in Mill Hill, where we had the sheriff come and speak regarding setting up neighborhood watch programs. And during that time, he talked about how he's working out with CHP to help with patrols during the harvest time. To help against theft and spike in crime there. So there'll be more safety for people out and about with that added protection from CHP in coordination with the Sheriff's Department. And that's it.
Good. Thank you. On 8/9, the last board meeting, I missed it. And the reason I missed it is because I was given a presentation on the Calaveras Watershed Management Pilot Program, which I've been pushing for a couple of years. And I was invited by CPUC to give this presentation with a group called WetCat. It's a governor task force group that consists of about 10 different agencies, including Cal EPA and Cal and all the Cal Water folks and anything to do with power, wildfire reduction, watershed, and all the things that we all have experienced here lately that's really killing us, and communications, which is really huge. And as you know, during the Butte Fire, the communications it went somewhere else. We were almost using sign language because the smoke signals were confusing at that point. So that was a real interesting presentation. It was received well. They invited me to another one up in Middleton in next month, and then a third one in San Francisco in about a month from now. So I'll be continuing my push towards, it's pretty similar to what Chris was talking about. It's too bad that we couldn't have started this like a few years ago because, yeah, really. Now that, it makes it a little bit more difficult to be sustainable when you've taken your forest products and rendered them basically valueless. And so now, of course, the taxpayers are going to have to pay for this continuously until we've solved the issue. We could put together a program, which is, what I presented to the board a couple of years ago, which was accepted by the board then, to make sure that we move towards value-based ideas and processes, and which would improve the environment, reduce wildfire danger, increase water yield, and stop a lot of the sediment flow that we're experiencing right now into our reservoirs because we aren't doing any of that. Not to mention water recharge. But so that was on the 9th. On the 10th, I went to Fire Chiefs meeting here in San Andreas. That was great. These folks, there was a little bit of talk about processes, Butte Fire and things like that. I think Dennis Mills was there talking, as well. The sheriff was there discussing, and it's nice to see the sheriff and other people involved in that group. And it was, I went there because I've only been to a couple of them, and I plan on attending them from now on because those local fire folks really have great history, and they're the ones that really know our areas very, very thoroughly. On the 10th also, in the evening, I went to Valley Springs Elementary School. They had a garden dinner. Now, a couple of years ago I went to that garden, and it was like nothing like it is now. I mean, what they've done with their garden at the Valley Springs Elementary School is amazing. And all of the, I've never seen such big apples on trees. They got some big apples on their trees, and I was wondering how they do that. But they had a dinner that they provided. They invited parents and public to come and just take a look at, experience the garden and the kids and what they do there and how they educate them in that. And I think it is just a wonderful thing. It's very, very good. So I enjoyed myself a lot there. Served a little bit of food, which is what I'm used to anyhow. But all in all, the Parents Teachers Association put it on, and they did a really great job. They had quite a few people there. I was surprised how many people showed up. 8/11, I had a meeting with Chief Young here. Don Young is our fire chief in San Andreas, and also Chief Jason Robitel. So we had a little come together meeting to see how they could work together, because this is a large area, and how they can maximize their services for the people in our county. And it was really great to see them two work together like that, and I'm actually very excited about that. 8/12, I went to a Valley Springs Area Business Association mixer at DJ's Hair Salon in Valley Springs. Nice mixer. There was quite a few people there. One of my favorites showed up, which is Rochelle Snitchler, who, when I first met her, she was trying out for Saddle Queen up here at our fairgrounds. That was 4 years ago. And now she's wearing the banner that says Oakdale Rodeo Queen. So she just kept it up and kept it up and kept it up until she finally reached her goal, and I'm very proud of her for doing that. And so we've kept in contact these years because she happens to be a political science major, and so she likes to debate with me. And I got to tell you that I have to watch what I say to her. She's really smart. 8:13, we had an agenda review for this meeting. Also on 8:13, I went to RCRC. I believe those are the dates. And I went to RCRC, and then during the Golden State Financial Authority meeting, I made sure that they know that Calaveras County appreciates the money that comes from Golden State to, we had a $150,000 grant from them, and now we have another $150,000 for the Butte Fire recovery. And I just wanted to make sure that they knew that we appreciate that very much, and it's so very needed. So that's a very good group. I talked to them a little bit about some of the changes that they're making to the PACE program, and I would like it if we could reconsider bringing the PACE back and discussing it. Some of the issues I think that were bothering people about approving that, I believe that they're solving those issues, and there's many people in this county that would benefit from the PACE program, and I would really love to be able to bring that program back so that the board can take another look at it and maybe decide. I know that, I think it was on our last agenda, we approved the PACE program. The Angels Camp, they adopted the program, and so we approved that resolution. They're going to get benefit, and I believe that there are many people in our county that get benefit as well, as far as energy savings. When in your house, especially there's a lot of seniors around here with energy savings windows and doors and insulation and all the things that bring the quality of life to a better standard.
So, can I make a point on that? If we want to bring that back, Debbie wasn't, Supervisor Ponte wasn't here for that, right?
I think you need somebody who voted against it to bring it back.
Or wasn't present, I believe.
I'm willing to bring it back.
Oh,
They'll just solve it for you.
Both.
If you want me to go on record as being willing to bring it back, I'll do that.
You better.
I voted against it.
Would you want to bring it back?
Sure.
Okay.
So we can bring it back?
When would you like to brought back?
September 7th.
Not very much. Next week.
She's not laughing.
As soon as humanly possible.
November is fine. December. January.
It shouldn't be, really that difficult, since we already had a agenda packet made up. So.
But I assume you would want the representative from the PACE program here to do the presentation once again.
Okay.
Well,
yes?
I don't need
need
it.
it. We don't need that if it slows things down.
It's up to the board.
At this point, it really doesn't need to follow the motion for reconsideration. If the board as a whole, if you do an informal poll and the board as a whole directs staff to bring an item back, it can be brought back by an informal poll of the board to be considered at a future agendized meeting.
So I thought it was one of the people or one of the members that voted.
That's for a motion for reconsideration.
So, and then I would suggest that if the board would help me with this, bring it back.
Yes.
And I don't think it's necessary to have our representative here, but it would be okay to send them a little note letting them know that we can do this, and if somebody were to show up, great. If not, I think we can handle it on our own.
Well, Supervisor Edson, you mentioned that there are changes in the program or that they're addressing changes in the program. I think it would be beneficial to have him here so that he can explain those and address any of those concerns. My recommendation, since we're having a special meeting, followed by budget hearings and adoption, I would at least recommend waiting until October.
Okay, sure. That's fine. Right before the cold, rainy season. That's good. Yeah. All right. On 11/17 or 8/17, I went to the Congregate in Valley Springs that Common Grounds puts on, and had a meal with senior folks there. I got to say, they eat pretty darn good. Common Grounds puts out a good meal, and so I sat and just went around and spoke with most of them, and they all seemed to be pretty satisfied. There was one table that, didn't like meatloaf the week before, but I don't like meatloaf anyhow, so I'd probably gripe about it no matter what. But what was there was excellent, and there was quite a few people there, and I certainly appreciate them doing that service. On the 18th, civic engagement program, I attended civic engagement at the Calaveras High School. It's a program that I've been working on since last year, to try to get the students more engaged in their surroundings, in their community. And I would like to see them actually more engaged in their government and all of the government entities. And so it would be really great to be able to put together some kind of help put together some kind of a program that would allow access to that somehow, where they can learn about some of the things that we go through. And so I'll be working on that in the future here and try to work that out with staff to be able to do things like that. On the 19th, I was in the same room with Supervisor Kearney with Calaveras Has Talent. I mean, I went there at 1 o'clock just to kind of help out for a minute, and it ended up they were having some real issues with sound, and so I ended up staying until it was all over. But I got to say that Supervisor Kearney was a good judge. He had some really great comments, and he got to see one heck of a show. Last year we went through this Calaveras Has Talent, and it was good also. But I got to tell you, there's a couple of these young people that showed up at this one that really is. One gal, I guess, flew back on a red eye from back east because she performed back there and came back in time for this show and performed that night there. Her name was Romy. She was really good. Also, I got to brag a little bit. D.A. Yook, her daughter, Tegan, is moving on to the finals. And she's a vocalist, and she has one heck of a strong voice in the youth category. Same night, I was supposed to show up at the Gold Country Shooters dinner, but unfortunately I couldn't because of the sound issues over there, but we'll catch them next year. The things I wanted to bring up, again, I would like the consideration for the Animal Services position. There are a number of animals up in the burn area, in the pot, and in a lot of these pot farms or cannabis farms that sometimes are loose, or sometimes they're abandoned, or sometimes there just are issues with them. And, I think it's a waste of time for our sheriff's office to try to deal with them. I think that we should be dealing with them through Animal Services, and it is a part of this whole administering the ordinance. And I think that, I feel, anyhow, that the ordinance should cover the cost of that moving forward, because it's not going to be an issue that goes away anytime soon. And it is a good chance for us to bring in, we're identifying things as we move along of the issues that we're dealing with that haven't been identified or haven't been taken on before, and we want to take these things on, record them to make sure that we're capturing everything that we can in the future. So So I am requesting that we can do that. And also, I would like to see a detailed report on pot ordinance, the things that we've done, explain, to have some dialogue around it so people understand what it's all about, what we've collected till now, the resources that we've expended, what is the capital stuff that we've purchased, but also the resources that we brought into the sheriff's office, code enforcement, into the county, into county counsel's office, and explain why we're doing this the way we're doing it. And also I'd like to see if the sheriff would like to also give some of his perspective on it and some of the things that they're seeing, and in all, because people are curious about it. There's a lot of people out there that are just getting a lot of misinformation, and I believe that we need to have a consistent source of information to allow them to at least see it from the source.
So just so I'm clear, Supervisor Hudson, what you're telling the board is a single report, update you mentioned similar to the Butte fire. We sent out an email, the Suburbs sent out an email to the board asking what their preference was. We got 4 responses back. 2 were for update at a public meeting. 2 were for the information via email to the supervisors, and 1 was a non-response. Based on that, because I knew the board was interested, I did send out what had been a report of what had been collected and what funds had been allocated. However, if you want a report, do you want it monthly? Do you want it every board meeting? And what departments would you like to have reported out if this is the board's decision? Sheriff, code enforcement, planning, the administrative office regarding the finances. I just want to be real clear what the decision of the board is and what the direction of the board is.
You're talking about the Butte Fire report, right?
No, I am talking cannabis.
Oh. Okay, I'm thinking 2 different tracks here.
Chair?
Well, I think a lot that's very important is the results of enforcement. That's what people want to know. There are people, they see grows right next to them, and they're not anywhere near the ordinance, and they're wondering why they haven't been addressed.
So my concern is that this is going beyond just an informal poll for an item to be brought back, and it's getting into more of a substantive discussion. So at this point, I would ask that the board, if the board would like us to agendize a study session or an update for where things are related to the implementation and enforcement of the urgency ordinance, we can certainly do that. If there's specific things that board members would like to see, I would ask that board members reach out to staff so that we can provide that information to the board at that future date. This item is not agendized, so further discussion on this would not be proper. So I would just ask for a poll and direct staff for a future item to come back to the board and in an agendized manner.
So you're saying we can't discuss?
You cannot have a substantive discussion about it.
But we can discuss discussing it?
You can direct staff to bring the item back at a future date.
So would the board like us to bring back a study session on cannabis program at a future date, and if so, what date would that be?
I don't look for a study session. What I'm looking for is a written report, status update, whether departments make a presentation, but something that says, where we are right now. We went into effect on May 10th. Peter made a comment about how many registrations they're processing. Now we've had a couple months into it, so I'd like to see how the processing is working, how it's affecting other departments. You sent out a report indicating this was budgeted, this is where we are, maybe reinforce that or update that. I see something, in September, maybe the second meeting in September, because by then that September 7th deadline would have passed, and I would think planning would have a little bit more concrete information as to where they stand in this process. But I think a written report with some presentations from perhaps the Sheriff's Department and Planning is kind of key departments, but I'm also open to other departments if they're having concerns or issues or want something to be addressed. Maybe this is a good time to hear from Animal Services and how they see this particular request that Supervisor Edson is making.
I would like to see also some type of formalized report dealing with the amount of inspections done by code compliance and by any enforcement action by the sheriff, both on non-registered grows and on registered grows, if you will. Something that has been brought to my attention by my constituents in those areas.
I think I already said what's on my mind. I mean, I want to report on the enforcement and what's being done, because that's what my constituents are asking. You've already given us a report on the money collected and what it was spent on. If there's any changes or updates, I'd appreciate knowing that. But I really want to know, if we've dealt with X number of grows that have been complained about, what are we doing about them, and what has been done about them, because that's what the people want to know. A lot of people think we're doing nothing.
And additionally, I understand our tip hotline has been very successful. I'd like to know not specifics, but maybe the number of tips that have been received over a period of time.
And again, what is the date that you would like to have this item brought before the board?
We'd have to give at least proper amount of time to prepare this information. 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Is that the proper time?
I don't know. Do you have staff to do it?
Well, we will be pulling from staff to get the information. We can try for the second board meeting in September. That should provide staff with sufficient time.
I mean, if this, to me, if I'm allowed to say anything, this should be an ongoing report. Yeah, thank you. This should be an ongoing report, and if we need to bring somebody in to develop this report and keep it ongoing and give an update on it, since it's so important to our county, then I think that's something that might be considered.
Again,
paid for by the application fee.
Again, that would take time to hire somebody, and do a position and job classification. What I need to know from the board right now is when you would like the first report.
As soon as possible would be good, but that's going to be up to you to decide how, when you can get it.
I stated earlier, I think the second meeting in September is sufficient for me.
That seems about reasonable.
Sounds to be good enough. Okay, that's all I have.
Oh, all right. One quick thing before you slam that hammer down. It was just following further on something Cliff expanded on. The Calaveras has talent. The final performance is on September 24th. It's at the Bret Hart Theater. It really is worth going. There are some contestants that are truly at the professional level.
I do have one quick, I just got this email from the Sierra Nevada Alliance. Actually, CAL FIRE has released guidelines for a grant program that combines the normal state responsibility area funding with special tree mortality funding allocation for a total of $15.75 million. And so people in Calaveras County were eligible for that funding through the county, through fire safe councils, and through nonprofits. So let's all of us make sure we're getting that money to our county so the private landowners can actually get money from those entities to be able to take care of this problem.
One quick question. I know it may not be in that email. Does that include the $11 million from the SRA funds and the $6 million?
This includes the 4.75 in the SRA funding. The remaining $11 million is allocated specifically for the 10 counties, including our own.
Right. Great. Meeting adjourned.
You guys got into me like the water district. No, that's it.